We are working currently on a paper that we hope will be out in 3 or 4 months that will be a follow-up to the brief that will basically describe what is important in the marketplace to payers and in general to PBMs in keeping the cost down of medications, oral medications going to patients. And in doing so, there are things like a fulfillment rate, which is, did the patient get the drug that they were intended to get from that physician that's dispensing? What does that entail? That entails making sure that the patient has the patient financial assistance, because many times if the patient does not have the money to be able to pay for their portion, financial responsibility for that drug, they will decide not to take the drug to begin with. If the administrative burden is too much for the patient to get the drug to begin with, they may not move forward with that drug. So what we want to be able to show is what is our fulfillment rate on patients receiving their drugs within our clinic versus what's the fulfillment rate of the patients receiving in a specialty pharmacy. So that's the first thing. Do we fill prescriptions when we prescribe them to the patients? What is our fill rate? The second thing we want to do is make sure that the patient is adhering to the product that they're receiving. It does us no good if a patient is supposed to be receiving the product monthly or weekly or daily, and that patient does not take the drug as prescribed. This is detrimental to that patient's health and potentially to the side effects associated with that drug, because if the patient doesn't stay on the drug as prescribed, they will end up in the ER, they will end up with side effects to the drugs that they were not supposed to get, that was the reason they were getting the drug to begin with. They will end up with progression on their disease that negatively impacts their health. So what's important is, how do we in the practice make sure that that patient is adhering to the product? Not just that they're getting the prescription every 30 days like they're supposed to get, but we want to make sure that we are calling them up, and that if they're taking that pill every week, we are calling them up and asking about, Mrs. Jones, did you today take your pill that you were supposed to? How are you doing after they receive it? Calling them up and finding out how they are feeling, using software platforms that utilize their cell phone in order to discuss the side effects so that we can better manage it, not just when they come into our practice and they're sitting down with our physician and discussing their care, but in between, having a pharmacist or a pharmacy tech or a nurse call that patient up and asking them about the side effects that we expect out of medications that they are going to receive. So we want to make sure that that patient stays on that drug, even if they are feeling bad, that we manage how they are feeling by giving them other things for symptoms due to nausea or diarrhea, vomiting, anything that they may be feeling. So that is very, very important. And then lastly, we want to be able to see, did that patient stay on the drug for the duration that they were supposed to stay on it? So if a patient is, we call that persistence, if a patient is supposed to be on a drug weekly for 6 months, then we want to make sure and prove and show very tangibly how well did our patients stay on the drugs that we're prescribing to them over the course of their treatment. So if it's for 6 months, we want to be able to show very tangibly and very factually that that patient stayed on that drug timely from the very start to the end of their 6 months. And if not, it's because the physician's practice, took them off of it because of progression of their disease, they're not responding well to the drug, but we can record that, and that we don't have waste in the marketplace for a drug that is not being utilized. So we want to be able to show that we respond to it versus specialty pharmacy where the patient may drop off after 3 months, but there's no follow-up care to that patient, no personalized touch coming out to find out why did that patient not stay on it. Maybe they had a headache, maybe they had nausea, and they didn't have another drug to be able to take in order to be able to stay prolonged on the duration of that product. Sometimes patients have to stay on it until their disease progresses or until they no longer respond to that drug. So we want to be able to be their partner in life on that drug for as long as they take that. So we hope that in this paper, this follow-up paper, that we're able to show very tangibly what these rates are, how we are doing in accordance with how we do it within the practice in-house physician dispensing pharmacy versus what's recorded in specialty pharmacy, drug by drug. So we're going to take it from a very microscopic component of looking at 6 or 7 drugs and following those and looking at what is recorded from benchmark standards in the marketplace from how specialty pharmacies are doing it, and hopefully be able to show payers and be able to show others that we do this very well, and we do it well because that patient is within our practice and we are loving and taking care of those patients at the point of care, doing everything we can to take care of them.